The weather models just did something they almost never do. They got colder. Every single day for the past week, the forecast has trended colder, not warmer. And what that means for the next 2 weeks will shock you. Right now, winter isn't slowing down. It's accelerating. In the next 60 seconds, I'm going to show you why everyone who said winter was canceled is dead wrong. At the 3-minute mark, you'll see the snowstorm forming for tonight that could drop up to a foot in some locations. And at the 5-minute mark, I'll reveal the Christmas week pattern that nobody saw coming. But first, let me show you something that should concern everyone in the eastern United States. The last 14 days have been brutal. Arctic air pouring into the central and eastern states like water from a broken dam. And here's what nobody expected. It's been even colder than the seasonal forecast predicted. We're talking about a classic positive PNA pattern. Warmer temperatures blanketing the west. And the east, frozen solid. But here's the twist that changes everything. Every meteorologist, every model, every forecast was saying the same thing 2 weeks ago. Big warm-up coming around December 20th, a torch pattern, maybe even record highs for Christmas week. That forecast just died. The models have been shifting, day after day after day, and they're all moving in the same direction. Colder. Not slightly colder, significantly colder. The medium to long-range forecast that showed temperatures in the 60s and 70s for Christmas week, gone. Replaced by a back-and-forth pattern that's actually better for snow. And both the European model and the GFS model are showing the same thing. When both models agree this far out, you need to pay attention. So let me ask you a question. What does this mean for your holiday plans? Because the answer is going to determine whether you're driving through a snowstorm or enjoying clear roads, whether your flight gets canceled or takes off on time, whether your pipes freeze or stay intact. Let's start with what's happening right now, because tonight, a clipper system is about to slam parts of the mid-Atlantic and northeast. High elevation areas in West Virginia and Pennsylvania could see up to 12 inches of snow, 1 foot, from a clipper system that most people aren't even tracking. But it's not just the mountains. Virginia, D.C., Maryland, Delaware, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, even parts of New York and southern New England are all in the path. And the snow totals keep increasing. Areas that were forecast for 2 to 3 inches yesterday are now looking at 4 to 6 inches. Some locations could see even more. Why the increase? Because the precipitation field expanded. The storm didn't shift, it grew. More area, more moisture, more snow. And here's what makes this particularly dangerous. The timing. This hits tonight into tomorrow morning. Friday morning commute in D.C., Baltimore, Philadelphia, New York. Heavy snow with temperatures in the teens. Roads will be a nightmare. But wait, there's more. And this is the part nobody's talking about. Behind this snow, temperatures are going to plummet. Sunday night into Monday, the eastern seaboard sees extremely cold temperatures. We're talking upper teens in southeastern Virginia. Areas that normally hover in the 30s will be struggling to hit 20 degrees. And the wind chill, even worse. Now here's where it gets interesting, and this is critical information for anyone who lives near the coast. The ocean is cooling. Fast. Normally, the Atlantic Ocean acts as a heat source. It moderates coastal temperatures. It makes snow harder to achieve near the coast because the air coming off the water is warmer. But we've had so many Arctic air masses push through in the last 2 weeks that the ocean temperatures are dropping much faster than normal for mid-December. What does that mean? It means the ocean is becoming less of a factor. It means coastal areas have a better chance of seeing snow. It means storms that would normally produce rain at the coast could now produce all snow. For anyone hoping for a white Christmas in coastal areas, this is extremely good news. The ocean temperature drop is creating conditions we usually don't see until late January or February. But it's happening now, in mid-December, and it's going to pay dividends for the rest of the winter. Now let me show you what happens next week, because this is where the forecast gets really interesting. Everyone's been talking about the warm-up, the torch, the pattern change around December 16th through 20th that was supposed to melt all the snow and bring spring-like temperatures. It's not happening, at least not the way people thought. Yes, we get milder around the 16th and 17th, but it's not crazy mild. The northern jet stream stays relatively flat with small dips and ridges. Nothing extreme. By Thursday the 18th, we see a strong low-pressure system north of Michigan's Upper Peninsula. This brings snow to the northern plains, upper Midwest, and Canada. Some rain showers farther south, maybe even some severe weather where it's warm enough. But look at what happens behind it. The trough that follows isn't as extreme as what we've seen recently, but it's definitely a cooler pattern. Not warm, cooler. The jet stream configuration simply doesn't support the kind of warm-up everyone was panicking about on social media. You've probably seen the posts. Winter's canceled, Christmas torch coming, say goodbye to snow. All wrong. The pattern is back and forth. Brief warm, brief cool, brief warm, brief cool. But overall, near normal to slightly below normal temperatures for most of the east. And here's why that's actually better for snow than what we had the last 2 weeks. When you have a dominant cold pattern with no movement, you get cold and dry. Arctic air sitting in place. No moisture, no storm systems, just cold. But when you have a back and forth pattern, you get low pressure systems. You get moisture. You get the clash of warm and cold air masses. And that creates snow. Multiple snowstorm opportunities are setting up for the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. Both models are showing storm signals. Not one storm, multiple storms. Let me walk you through the timeline, because this is where specifics matter. We've already talked about tonight's Clipper system, 4 to 6 inches for many areas, up to a foot in the mountains. Then we get that brief mild period around the 16th through 19th. But even during this mild period, the jet stream stays far enough south that we're not talking about a torch. We're talking about near normal temperatures in much of the east. By Sunday the 21st, another system moves through, and it's cold enough to support snow. Christmas Eve, the 24th, brings another trough descending into the east. Not a major trough, but definitely colder. Christmas Day and beyond, the models are showing Clipper systems moving through Canada and diving into the east. One system shows potential for the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. Then another one a few days later. Now, we're talking about forecasts at hour 282 for Christmas and beyond. The specifics will change. The exact track, the exact timing, the exact snow totals, those will all shift as we get closer. But the overall pattern? That's what matters. And the pattern is cold enough to support snowfall as far south as Virginia and D.C. If models are showing snow in Virginia and Washington, D.C. for Christmas week, we are absolutely not in a warm pattern. Let me be crystal clear about this. The torch is not happening. Both the European model and the GFS model are showing similar things. And when I say similar, I mean remarkably similar for forecasts this far out. The European model shows storm after storm targeting the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. The GFS shows the same thing, maybe a bit farther south, which is typical GFS behavior. But both models agree. Active pattern. Cold enough for snow. Multiple opportunities. Let's talk about the GFS model specifically for a moment. Around the 18th, it shows a very intense low-pressure system, 981 millibars. That's extremely strong, strong enough to potentially produce severe weather on the warm side. Thunderstorms in December in the Midwest. That's how much temperature contrast we're dealing with. But behind that system, cold air returns. The 21st shows another cold front. The 23rd, 24th, 25th, the jet stream is flat, but there's snow falling in southern Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York City. Flat jet stream with snow in those locations means temperatures are cold enough, period. The 27th and 28th bring another system. Both models show this. Similar timing, similar location. That's a signal worth paying attention to. And then we get into the really long range, and this is where things get wild. The GFS shows something around the 28th and 29th that's so unusual it's almost hard to describe. A low-pressure system that moves southward in a way that we almost never see. Now, at hour 366, you have to take these specifics with a massive grain of salt. The GFS is notorious for showing weird things in the long range that never happen. But here's what we can extract from it. The big picture shows cold air around and after Christmas. A major trough in the east. Potential coastal activity as the southern jet gets involved. Those are the signals that matter, not the specific weird track of one particular system, but the overall pattern. Let's look at precipitation forecasts, because this tells us a lot about what's coming. The European model shows elevated precipitation across the entire West. We've been seeing this for days. Atmospheric rivers continue to pound the Pacific Northwest. The Rockies get consistent snow. The East shows enough precipitation to support multiple snowfall opportunities. Not crazy amounts, but enough. Cold fronts rolling through, storm systems developing. The biggest below-normal precipitation area is actually the Deep South. They desperately need rain. They saw drought through summer, into fall, and now into winter. Unfortunately, the next 14 days don't look good for them. But the West Coast and Rockies, highly above normal precipitation continues. Now, the snowfall forecast is fascinating. The mountainous West stays relatively active. That's no surprise given all the precipitation. But here's the big change. The northern plains and upper Midwest see a huge decrease compared to the last 14 days. Why? Because we're not getting those massive troughs that support frequent clipper systems anymore. Instead, we're getting weaker systems that move through the northern plains in Canada, then intensify as they reach the mid-Atlantic and northeast. The snow is shifting east. Both models show significant accumulation for the mid-Atlantic and northeast over the next 2 weeks. The European model shows it, the GFS shows it slightly farther south. The GFS has a known bias. It tends to push things too far south. 1 or 2 times out of 10, it's right. But usually, it's overdoing the southern track. So when both models show snow for the mid-Atlantic and northeast, even if the GFS is a bit farther south, the signal is clear. Snow is coming. Multiple times. Now, let me tell you about something that's setting up conditions for an absolutely brutal rest of the winter. Canada is getting buried in snow. The snowpack building up across Canada is massive. Areas where snow doesn't melt easily are seeing tons of accumulation. And this is extremely important for what happens next. Here's why. When Arctic air masses move south from Canada into the United States, they normally warm up as they travel. That's just physics. Air moving from a colder region to a warmer region increases in temperature. But when there's snow and ice on the ground, something different happens. That snow and ice acts like a battery for cold. The Arctic air mass moving over it stays colder. It maintains its intensity. The warming process slows down dramatically. So when we get Arctic blasts in January and February, and they move over this massive Canadian snowpack, they're going to be even colder than normal. Combined with the Atlantic Ocean cooling faster than usual, we're setting up conditions for a potentially historic rest of the winter. The ingredients are aligning. Now, let's talk about temperature forecasts, because this is where you really see the pattern playing out. The European model shows the current major Arctic blast continuing through Tuesday and Wednesday, potentially historic temperatures for mid-December in some locations. Thursday and Friday, the 18th and 19th, bring that brief warm-up we talked about. It's intense for a couple days, but it's brief. Then we get into Christmas week, and this is not the brief cooldown everyone expected. The 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th, 5 days of colder air. Then it warms up again briefly before we move into a pattern that supports longer duration cold air in the east. The GFS model shows the same back and forth. Big cooldown, brief warm-up, brief cooldown, brief warm-up, back and forth, back and forth. But then, approaching the end of December, a major trough sets up over the east. Does that look like a total torch to you? Does that look like winter's canceled? Absolutely not. It's a dynamic pattern. Active, back and forth, but with plenty of cold air and plenty of moisture, which is exactly what you need for snow. And honestly, this is better than what we've had the last 2 weeks. Yes, it's been cold. Yes, some areas got snow. But for many locations, it's been cold and dry. The dominant Arctic air just sitting there. No storm systems, no opportunities. This new pattern brings opportunities. Low pressure systems, moisture transport, the collision of different air masses. That's when the big snows happen. So while everyone on social media is complaining about the lack of snow or panicking about a warm-up, the models are actually showing a more favorable pattern for snowfall in the second half of December. You just have to know how to read it. Here's what you need to understand about the next 2 weeks. Tonight into tomorrow, significant snow for parts of the mid-Atlantic and Northeast, 4 to 6 inches for many, up to a foot in the mountains. Dangerous travel conditions. This weekend through early next week, extreme cold continues. Sunday night into Monday brings some of the coldest temperatures of the season. Protect your pipes. Limit outdoor exposure. Mid-next week, brief moderating trend. Not a torch, just near normal temperatures. Maybe a bit above in some areas. Don't let your guard down. Late next week into Christmas, active pattern continues. Multiple storm systems possible, cold enough for snow in many areas. Travel could be impacted. After Christmas into New Year's, models suggest a return to colder pattern, potential for significant winter weather. The key word here is active. The pattern is not shutting down. It's not going into a prolonged warm spell. It's remaining active with back-and-forth temperature swings and multiple opportunities for winter weather. If you have holiday travel plans, you need to stay flexible. Book refundable tickets if possible. Have backup plans. Check forecasts frequently because things will change. If you're hosting guests, make sure you're prepared for potential winter weather events. Stock up on essentials. Have your snow removal equipment ready. Check your heating system. And if you're hoping for a white Christmas, the odds just got a lot better than they were a week ago. The ocean is cooling. The Canadian snowpack is building. The models are showing storm signals, and the pattern is favorable. Winter is not canceled. In fact, winter is just getting started. The first half of December gave us a taste of what's possible. Arctic air, some snow, cold temperatures, but it was mostly just cold and dry. The second half of December is setting up to be more interesting, more dynamic, more opportunities for significant winter weather. And then we move into January and February with all these favorable ingredients in place. Cold ocean, massive snowpack in Canada, active pattern established. That's when things could get really interesting. So here's what I want you to remember from this forecast. 1. The warm-up everyone feared is not happening. The torch pattern canceled. We're getting a back-and-forth pattern instead. 2. Multiple snowstorm opportunities are setting up for the mid-Atlantic and Northeast. Both models agree on this. 3. The ocean cooling and Canadian snowpack building are creating favorable conditions for the rest of winter. 4. Stay flexible with holiday plans. The pattern is active, conditions will change. 5. Winter is just getting started. Tomorrow's forecast is going to dive deeper into that Christmas week pattern. I'll show you the specific storm systems the models are tracking, the timing, the potential impacts, everything you need to know to plan accordingly. Because the next 10 days are critical, and the forecasts are updating every 6 hours with new information. You don't want to miss what's coming next.